He was not looking for anything special when he arrived in the small town. He was simply passing through, traveling from one place to another, trying to earn a living and stay out of trouble. The sun was already high in the sky and the air was dry and warm. Everything felt quiet and slow, like the town itself was moving at its own pace. The buildings were old and simple, made of wood and stone. People walked with calm steps, and the sound of horses and wagons was rare. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, but still treated strangers with a cautious kindness. He had been walking for hours, and his feet were sore. His shirt was dusty, and his hat was worn out from the long road. He stopped in front of a small store to rest. The owner was an older man with a gentle face. The man nodded politely but didn't say much. Wow. The traveler bought a bottle of water and some bread, then stepped outside to sit on the porch and rest. That was when he first noticed the two girls. They were twins, and they looked almost exactly the same. Their hair was dark and long, braided neatly down their backs. Their eyes were sharp and bright, full of curiosity. They were not afraid of him. Instead, they watched him carefully, as if trying to understand who he was and what he might do. They were young, maybe 12 or 13 years old, but they seemed older than their age. There was a seriousness in their faces that made him feel like they had seen more of life than most children. At first, they just stood a little distance away, whispering to each other. Then one of them stepped forward and smiled. "Hello," she said, in clear English. Her voice was soft but confident. "Are you tired?" He was surprised. He didn't expect children in this town to speak so well. "Yes," he admitted. "I've been walking a long time." The girl nodded, then looked at her sister. They both looked at him again, and for a moment, the traveler felt a strange feeling. It was not fear, but something like being watched by someone who was trying to decide if you were good or bad. He didn't know why, but he felt like these girls were not just being friendly, they were testing him. The other girl stepped forward. "My name is Ayana," she said. "And this is my sister Nita." He smiled and introduced himself. "My name is James," he said. "I'm just passing through." Ayana looked at him with a small smile. "You look like you could use a place to rest," she said. James laughed lightly. "Maybe I do." Nita spoke next, her voice calm and steady. "We live nearby. Our mother might let you rest in our home." James looked at them, surprised. "Are you sure? I don't want to bother your family." The twins exchanged a quick look, as if they had already decided something. Ayana nodded. "It's not a bother," she said. "We have room." James felt a strange warmth in his chest. It was not just because of their kindness. It was also because of how serious they were. There was something about them that made him trust them, even though he didn't know them. He had met many people in his travels, and most were polite but distant. These girls seemed different. They seemed like they cared. "Okay," he said finally. "If your mother agrees, I will go with you." The twins smiled again, and without any hesitation, they began walking away. James followed, curious and unsure. They walked through the town, past a few houses and small gardens. People watched them from their porches, but no one spoke. It felt like the town was used to seeing strangers, but also like it was protecting itself by staying quiet. As they walked, James tried to learn more about them. He asked simple questions like where they were from and what they did. The girls answered politely, but not too much. They didn't seem interested in talking about themselves. Instead, they kept looking at him, watching his reactions, and making sure he was still following. Finally, they reached a small house on the edge of town. It was not fancy, but it looked clean and cared for. There was a small garden in front with a few plants and a simple wooden fence around it. The house looked lived in, but not wealthy. It looked like a place where people worked hard and did not waste anything. The twins stopped at the gate. Ayana knocked on the door, and after a moment, it opened. A woman stood there. She was not young, but not old either. Her face was strong, with a calm expression. Her eyes were tired, but there was a kindness in them. She looked at James carefully, then looked at her daughters. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. "This is James," she said. "He is tired and needs a place to rest." The mother looked at James again, and James felt a strange feeling.
Oh, what?
It was not judgment, but careful attention. He felt like she was measuring him, trying to understand if he was safe. James bowed his head slightly. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm just passing through and needed a place to rest." The mother nodded slowly. She stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Come in," she said. "But don't cause trouble." James thanked her and stepped inside. The house was small but neat. There were simple decorations on the walls and a few handmade items. Everything looked like it had a purpose. The air inside felt cool and calm. The smell of food was in the air, like someone had been cooking recently. The mother led James to a small room with a simple bed. She told him to wash up and rest. James was surprised by her kindness. He expected her to be suspicious or harsh, but she was not. She was careful, yes, but also kind. It felt like she had learned to be strong because she had no other choice. As James washed up, he heard the twins talking softly in the next room. He couldn't hear everything, but he could tell they were whispering about him. He wondered what they were saying. He wondered if they had invited him for a reason he didn't know yet. He finished washing and returned to the main room. The mother had prepared a simple meal: bread, beans, and a small piece of meat. It was not much, but it was warm and filling. The twins sat quietly, watching him eat. They did not speak much. They seemed satisfied just to be there. After the meal, the mother sat down and looked at James again. "You have been traveling alone?" she asked. James nodded. "Yes," he said. "I don't have family nearby. I travel for work." The mother nodded slowly.
"You must be tired," she said. "You can rest here."
"You can stay a few days if you need." James felt grateful, but also uneasy. He did not want to overstay his welcome.
"Welcome."
"Thank you," he said. "I will not stay long." The mother nodded again. "You can sleep now," she said. "I will not disturb you." James went to the small room and lay down on the bed. He felt the softness of the blanket, and for the first time in a long time, he felt calm. He could hear the quiet sounds of the house, someone moving in the kitchen, the twins whispering, the wind outside. It was a simple sound, but it made him feel safe. He closed his eyes, but he could not sleep right away. He kept thinking about the twins. Why had they invited him? Why had they been so sure he would come? He had met many people, but rarely had he felt such a strong sense of being watched and understood. He tried to shake off the feeling and rest, but he couldn't. Something in him told him this was not just a random act of kindness. It felt like a plan, but he didn't know what the plan was. He didn't want to think too much, so he forced himself to sleep. The next morning, he woke up to the sound of soft footsteps. The twins were already awake. They were standing in the doorway, watching him. Ayana smiled again.
"Good morning," she said. James sat up slowly.
"Good morning," he replied. "Thank you for letting me stay." Ayana nodded. "You are welcome," she said. "You should eat." Our mother made breakfast. James got up and washed his face. When he went into the kitchen, he saw the mother cooking. She looked tired, but she smiled when she saw him. "Eat," she said simply. James sat down. He noticed the twins were quiet. They seemed to be waiting for something. He ate slowly, trying to understand what was happening. He didn't want to be rude, but he also didn't want to stay too long if they needed him to leave. After breakfast, the mother spoke again. "You can stay for today," she said. "But tomorrow you should decide if you will continue your journey." James nodded. "Yes," he said. "I will decide tomorrow." The twins looked at each other again, and James saw something in their eyes. It was not fear. It was not happiness. It was determination. They had a plan, and they were waiting for the right moment to reveal it. James did not know what that plan was yet, but he knew one thing. This visit was not just a simple act of kindness. It was the beginning of something that would change all of their lives. The morning moved slowly, like the sun itself was taking its time to rise higher. James sat at the small table, drinking his coffee and watching the twins move around the house. They were quiet, but their quietness felt full of purpose. They were not just children who had been given permission to live in a home. They were children who had learned how to carry a family on their small shoulders. The mother, whose name was Leona, worked without complaining. She cooked, cleaned, and prepared food for the day. Her movements were careful and practiced, like someone who had done the same tasks for years. James noticed the way she paused sometimes, as if she was thinking about something that hurt, but she did not show it. She kept working. James tried to help, but Leona shook her head. "You rest," she said. "You have traveled far." He felt a little embarrassed. He was used to being independent, doing things on his own. It was strange to be treated like someone who needed care, but he was also grateful. He had not felt this kind of kindness in a long time. After a while, the twins came to him and asked if he wanted to go outside. "We can show you the land," Ayana said. "You can rest under the shade." James agreed, and they walked out into the open air. The land around the house was wide and open. There were small hills in the distance, and the sky was clear and bright. The air smelled of dry grass and earth. It was peaceful, but it also felt lonely. There were no other houses nearby, only a few trees and the wide open space. The twins walked with him, one on each side. They did not talk much at first. Instead, they watched him, making sure he was comfortable. After a while, Nita spoke. "Do you like it here?" she asked. James looked around. "It's quiet," he said. "And beautiful. It's different from the towns I have been to." Ayana smiled. "We like it," she said, "but sometimes it feels too quiet." He understood. A place can be beautiful and still feel empty. He remembered his own life, traveling alone, always moving from one place to another. Sometimes he felt like he belonged nowhere. He wondered if these girls felt the same way. As they walked, James asked about their family. He wanted to learn more about them. The twins answered carefully. They said their father had died a few years ago. They did not say much else. James did not press them. He could tell it was a sensitive topic. The twins then led him to a small area behind the house, where there was a simple garden. There were vegetables growing in neat rows. There were also a few small animals, like chickens and a goat. The twins cared for them with careful hands. They fed the animals, watered the plants, and made sure everything was in order. James watched them and felt a deep respect. These girls were not like other children. They had learned to take responsibility early in life. They were strong in a quiet way. He began to feel something in his heart, a feeling of wanting to help them, to protect them, even though he did not know them well. After they finished their work, the twins walked James back to the house. Leona was sitting outside, resting in the shade. She looked up as they approached and smiled. "You look tired," she said to James. James nodded. "I am," he said. "But I feel better. The air is good." Leona nodded again. "You should rest," she said. "You can sleep again."
We will not bother you.
James felt grateful. He went inside and lay down for a while. He slept for a few hours. When he woke up, the sun was lower in the sky. The house felt calm. The twins were inside doing their chores. Leona was preparing dinner. James sat at the table and thought about his life. He had always been alone. He had traveled from town to town, working when he could. He had never had a real home. He had never had a family. He had never had someone who cared for him in a way that felt real. He thought about the twins and their mother. They were not rich. They did not have much, but they had something else.
They had a home. They had each other.
They had a bond that was strong. He felt something inside him that he did not understand. It was not love yet. It was not even friendship. It was something like longing. He wanted to belong somewhere. That evening, after dinner, Leona sat with him again. The twins had gone to their room, but they were still listening from behind the door. James noticed this and felt a little nervous. He did not know what they were planning. Leona spoke softly. "You have been kind," she said. "My daughters told me you needed rest." James nodded. "You did not have to do this," he said. "You did not know me." Leona shook her head.
"It is not about knowing you," she said. "It is about helping someone who needs help."
James felt a strange emotion. He wanted to ask more, but he did not want to be rude. He waited for her to speak again. Leona continued, "My husband died a few years ago. Since then, I have been alone with my daughters. They are strong, but they are still children. They need someone to help them." James looked at her. He could see the truth in her eyes. He could see the tiredness and the worry. He could see how much she had carried on her own. He felt a deep respect for her. Leona paused for a moment, then spoke again.
My daughters told me you might be a good person, she said. They said you seemed kind.
James felt surprised. "They said that?" he asked. Leona nodded.
Yes, she said. They watch people carefully.
"They have learned to see who is good and who is not." James smiled softly. "They are very smart," he said. Leona smiled back, but it was a small smile. "Yes," she said, "they are smart, but they are also young." James felt the tension in the air. He knew there was something else she wanted to say. He waited. Leona looked at him carefully. "I do not want to be alone anymore," she said. "But I do not want to force anything. I just want someone who can help us, someone who can be kind." James felt his heart beat faster. He did not know what to say. He did not want to offend her. He also did not want to make a mistake. Leona continued, "My daughters asked me if you could stay. They want a father again. They want someone to help us." James felt a wave of emotion. He looked down at his hands. He did not know what to think. He had never been asked to be part of a family. He had never been asked to stay somewhere for more than a few days. He had always been a traveler, always moving. He thought about his life. He thought about how lonely he had been. He thought about the kindness of this woman and her daughters. He thought about the way the twins watched him, like they already trusted him. He looked up at Leona. "I don't know if I can do that," he said honestly. "I don't know if I can stay. I don't know if I am the right person." Leona nodded. "I understand," she said. "I am not asking you to decide now."
You can stay for a few days and think. James felt a sense of relief.
He was grateful she did not force him. He felt like he had time to understand what he was feeling. That night, James lay in his bed again, but sleep did not come easily. His mind was busy. He kept thinking about the twins, about Leona, about the kindness they had shown him. He wondered if he could stay. He wondered if he wanted to. He thought about what it would mean to be part of a family. It would mean responsibility. It would mean staying in one place. It would mean giving up the life he knew. It would mean trusting people again. He did not know if he was ready, but he also knew that something inside him had changed. He no longer felt like a traveler who had no home. He felt like a man who had found a place where he could belong. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but he knew that tomorrow would be the day when he would have to make a decision, and he knew that whatever he chose, his life would never be the same again. The next morning arrived with a calm silence that felt heavier than the day before. The sun was warm, but the air was still. James woke up slowly, his mind still busy with thoughts. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the small window. The world outside looked the same, but inside his heart, everything felt different. He was not sure what he wanted, but he knew he could not go back to his old life after meeting Leona and her daughters. He went outside and found the twins already awake. They were sitting near the garden, tying small bundles of herbs together. Their movements were steady and careful, as if they were doing something important. When they saw James, they smiled. "Good morning," Ayana said. James nodded. "Good morning," he replied. Nita looked at him for a moment, then asked, "Did you sleep well?" James smiled. "Not really," he admitted. "My mind is busy." Ayana nodded. "You have a decision to make," she said. James looked at her, surprised. "How did you know?" he asked. Nita smiled slightly.
"We know," she said. "We are not children who only play.
We understand things." James felt a mix of emotions. He was impressed by their maturity, but he was also nervous. He did not want to be pressured. He wanted to make his own choice. He sat down near them and asked, "What do you want from me?" The twins looked at each other. Then Ayana spoke.
"We want you to stay," she said simply.
James felt his heart beat faster. He looked at her. "Why?" he asked. Ayana's eyes were calm. "Because our mother is tired," she said. "She is strong, but she is tired."
She works too much. She needs help.
James nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "But I am not sure I can stay. I have been traveling my whole life. I do not know how to stay in one place." Nita spoke next. "You can learn," she said. "We can teach you." James smiled slightly. "You think you can teach me?" Nita nodded. "Yes," she said. "We were smart." James laughed softly. The twins' confidence was surprising. It made him feel both comforted and uneasy. He wondered if they were too sure of themselves. He wondered if they were hiding something. After a while, Leona came outside. She carried a basket of fresh vegetables. She looked at James and smiled gently. "Are you ready to decide?" she asked. James felt his stomach tighten. "I am not sure," he admitted. "I need time." Leona nodded. "I understand," she said. "But I want to be honest with you." James looked at her. "What do you mean?" he asked. Leona took a deep breath. "My daughters invited you here," she said. "They wanted to bring someone into our home." James felt a strange shock. He did not expect her to say it so clearly. "Why?" he asked. Leona looked at him with a serious expression. "Because we need someone," she said. "We need a father figure. We need a man who can help us with the work. We need someone who can be part of our family." James felt his mind racing. He did not know what to say. He looked at the twins. They were watching him closely, waiting for his reaction. He could see the hope in their eyes. He could see that they had already decided in their minds that he was the one. He took a deep breath and asked, "Did you plan this?" Leona nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "They planned it. They thought you were a good man. They wanted you to stay." James felt a mix of emotions. He was touched by their trust, but he was also worried. He did not want to be forced into something. He wanted to be sure he was making the right choice. He looked at Leona and said, "I am not sure I can be the person you need." Leona nodded. "I know," she said. "You are not obligated. You can leave. I will not stop you." James felt a deep respect for her honesty. She was not trying to trick him. She was not trying to force him. She was giving him the choice. The twins watched silently, but James could feel their disappointment. He could see how much they wanted him to stay. He could see the hope in their faces. He felt guilty, like he was hurting them by not making a decision yet. Leona walked closer to him. "James," she said softly, "you do not have to decide now. You can stay for a few more days. Watch us. See what life is like here. If you still feel unsure, you can leave." James nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "I will stay a few more days." Leona smiled. "Good," she said. "That is all I ask." The twins looked relieved. They smiled, and for a moment, James felt like he belonged. He felt like he was part of something, but he still felt uncertain. The day continued, and James helped with small tasks. He carried water, fed the animals, and helped fix a fence. He was not very good at it, but he tried. Leona watched him carefully, but she did not criticize him. She simply showed him how to do things properly. As the day passed, James began to notice something. The twins were not only kind and helpful, they were also careful. They seemed to be watching how he behaved, how he treated their mother, how he spoke, and how he acted. It was as if they were checking if he was truly a good person. James began to understand why. In their world, trust was not something that could be given easily. Trust had to be earned. And the twins wanted to be sure that he was someone who could be trusted. That evening, after the work was done, Leona sat with James again. The twins were nearby, but they were quiet. Leona spoke softly. "Do you have a family?" she asked. James thought for a moment. "No," he said. "I do not have a family." "I do not have anyone." Leona nodded. "Then you understand what it is like to be alone," she said. "You understand how it feels to have no one?" James nodded. "Yes," he said, "I do." Leona looked at him with a serious expression. "Then you also know how important it is to have someone," she said. "To have someone who cares." James felt a lump in his throat. He did not want to cry. He did not want to show weakness, but he felt the truth in her words. He had never had someone who cared for him. He had never had a home. He had never had a family. He looked at the twins. They were watching him, their eyes full of hope. James took a deep breath and said, "I will think about it." "I will not promise anything," Leona nodded. "That is all I ask," she said. The night came, and James went to his bed. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. He thought about what Leona had said. He thought about how lonely he had been. He thought about the kindness he had been shown. He thought about the twins and their hope. He realized something. He was not only being asked to stay, he was being asked to become part of a family. He was being asked to stop being a traveler and become a man who belonged somewhere. It was a big change. It was a change he was not sure he was ready for, but he also knew something else. He wanted to be ready. He wanted to belong. He wanted to have a home. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "I will try." The next morning felt different. The air was cooler and the light was softer. It was as if the world itself knew that something important was about to happen. James woke up earlier than usual. He sat on the edge of the bed, thinking about the decision he had to make. He did not feel ready, but he also did not feel like he could go back to the life he had before. He went outside and found the twins already awake. They were sitting near the fence, watching the sunrise. Their faces looked calm, but James could tell they were thinking deeply. When they saw him, they smiled, but it was not the same smile as before. It was a more serious smile, like they were trying to show him that they were strong and brave. Ayana stood up and walked toward him. "You look worried," she said softly. James nodded. "I am worried," he admitted. "I do not want to make a mistake." Nita joined them. "What kind of mistake?" she asked. James looked at them. "A mistake that could hurt you or your mother," he said. "I do not want to hurt anyone." Ayana looked at him carefully.
"You will not hurt us," she said.
"We know you are good." James felt a strange warmth in his chest. He wanted to believe them. He wanted to believe that he could be the person they needed, but he still felt uncertain. He did not know if he could stay in one place. He did not know if he could be a father figure. He did not know if he could handle the responsibility. They walked together toward the small garden. James helped them water the plants. The twins were patient with him. They did not rush him. They did not make him feel like he was useless. They treated him like someone who was learning. After the work was done, Leona called them inside. She looked at James and said, "I want to talk to you." James followed her into the house. The twins stayed outside, but James could see them through the window. They were watching him. They looked worried. They looked hopeful. Leona sat down at the table. She looked at James with a calm expression. "I want to be honest with you," she said. "My daughters asked me to consider you. They want you to stay." James nodded. "I know," he said. Leona continued, "I also want you to know something else." James waited. Leona took a deep breath. "In our community, we believe in family and responsibility," she said. "We also believe in love, but love is not always the first thing. Sometimes, the first thing is survival. Sometimes the first thing is making sure children have a home." James listened carefully. He felt the seriousness of her words. He understood that this was not a simple request. It was a deep tradition, something that had been passed down for generations. He felt the weight of it. Leona looked at him and said, "My daughters planned this because they wanted a father, but I did not force them. They asked me, and I listened. But I also want to be sure that you want to stay for the right reason." James nodded. "I want to stay because I care about you and your daughters," he said. "But I also want to be sure I can do it." Leona smiled slightly. That is good, she said.
Hmm.
Because if you stay, it must be real. It must be honest. We cannot live with a lie. James felt the truth in her words. He felt the responsibility of it. He understood that this was not just about him. It was about the future of a family. Leona continued, I do not want you to stay just because you feel sorry for us. I want you to stay because you want to be part of us. James nodded. I understand, he said. I want to be part of you. Leona looked at him for a moment, then said, And you must know something. My daughters are not just children. They are strong. They are smart.
They are brave, but they still need guidance.
They still need someone who can help them grow. James felt a sense of fear. He had never been a father before. He did not know how to guide children. He did not know how to be a man who could support a family. He had always been alone. He had always made decisions only for himself. Now, he was being asked to think about others. He thought about the twins. He thought about their strong faces, their careful eyes. He thought about how they watched him. He thought about how much they wanted him to stay. He felt a deep sense of duty. Leona continued, I will not force you. You can still leave, but if you stay, you must stay with respect. You must stay with honesty. You must stay with care. James nodded. I will, he said. Leona stood up and walked to the window. She looked outside at the twins. They were still watching. She sighed softly. Do you know why they invited you? She asked. James shook his head. Leona turned to him. Because they believe in you, she said. They believe you can be the person we need. James felt his heart beat faster. He looked down. He did not know what to say. He felt honored, but also scared. Leona continued, They also want to protect me. They want someone who can help. They want someone who can be strong. James looked up. I will try, he said. I will do my best. Leona smiled. That is all I ask, she said. James left the room and went outside. The twins were still there, but they looked different now. They looked like they had been waiting for his answer. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were full of emotion. Ayana spoke first. Did she talk to you? She asked. James nodded. Yes, he said. She told me everything. Nita looked at him carefully. What did she say? She asked. James took a deep breath. She said that you invited me because you wanted a father, he said. She said she wants me to stay only if I truly want to be part of the family. The twins looked at each other, and for a moment, James saw something change in them. They looked relieved, but also worried. They were waiting for his answer. James looked at them and said, I will stay. The twins smiled. It was the first time he saw them smile like children. Their faces lit up with happiness. They ran toward him and hugged him. James felt a warmth he had never felt before. He felt like he had finally found a place where he belonged. But then, he remembered something. He remembered that this decision was not only about him, it was also about Leona. He needed to talk to her again. He needed to make sure she was truly okay with this. He walked back to the house and found Leona sitting outside, resting. She looked up when she saw him. I have decided, James said. Leona looked at him carefully. What did you decide? She asked. James took a deep breath. I will stay, he said, but only if you want me to. I do not want to force anything. I want to be here because I care. Leona's eyes softened. She smiled gently. "Yes," she said. "I want you to stay." James felt a wave of relief. He felt like a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked at her and said, "I will do my best to help you and the girls." Leona nodded.
"That is all I ask," she said. The twins came out and saw them talking.
They smiled and looked happy. They knew that James had made his choice.
They knew that he was staying. That night, the house felt different.
It felt warmer. It felt like a home. The twins were laughing softly as they talked about the day. Leona was cooking, but she looked calmer. James sat at the table, listening to them. He felt like he was finally part of something. But he also knew that this was only the beginning. There would be challenges. There would be days when he would feel tired. There would be days when he would doubt his choice. But he also knew that he was not alone anymore. He had a family. He went to his bed that night, and he felt a strange sense of peace. He closed his eyes and thought, maybe this is what I had been looking for all along. After James said he would stay, the house changed in small ways that made a big difference. It was not like a magical moment where everything suddenly became perfect. It was more real than that. It was the kind of change that comes slowly, one day at a time. The house felt warmer, not because the weather changed, but because the people inside it began to feel connected. The first few days were not easy. James had never lived in one place for so long. He was used to the freedom of the road. He was used to making decisions alone. Now he had to think about other people. He had to think about their needs, their feelings, their routines. It was a new kind of responsibility, and he was not sure he was ready for it. The twins watched him closely, but they were also kind.
They did not pressure him. They helped him learn.
They showed him how to do things around the house. They taught him how to carry water without spilling, how to feed the animals, how to fix small things around the house. They laughed when he made mistakes, but they did not make him feel bad. They were patient. Leona, too, was patient. She did not demand too much from him. She gave him tasks that he could handle. She also watched him carefully, but not in a harsh way. She watched him like someone who wanted to be sure he was truly committed. James found himself learning quickly. He realized that living in one place was not easier than traveling. It was just different. The work was constant. There was always something to do. There was always a responsibility. There was always a need to think about the future. But there were also small joys. There were moments that made him feel happy in a way he had never felt before. He enjoyed sitting by the fire with the twins, listening to them talk. He enjoyed the way Leona smiled when she saw him helping. He enjoyed the feeling of being part of a family. One day, James was helping the twins with the garden. They were planting seeds for the next season. The sun was warm and the air smelled of fresh earth. James was careful, but he still made a mistake. He dropped a small bag of seeds, and they spilled on the ground. The twins looked at him and laughed softly. "You are clumsy," Nita said, smiling. James laughed too.
I am learning,
he said.
Ayana smiled and said, we all make mistakes.
That is how we learn. James felt a warm feeling in his chest. He realized that he was not alone in making mistakes. He had been alone for so long that he had forgotten how it felt to be supported when you failed. That evening, Leona called James to the house. She was sitting at the table with a small notebook in her hand. She looked at him with a serious expression. "I want to talk to you," she said. James sat down. He felt a little nervous. He wondered if he had done something wrong. Leona smiled gently. "You have been doing well," she said. You are learning. You are trying. James breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, he said. Leona continued, but there is something I want to ask you. James looked at her. What is it? He asked. Leona opened the notebook. She had written something inside. She looked at James and said, Do you want to be more than a helper? Do you want to be my husband? James felt his heart beat faster. He did not expect her to ask so directly. He had been thinking about it, but he did not know if he was ready to say it out loud. He looked at Leona carefully. He could see the hope in her eyes. He could see the fear, too. She was afraid of being rejected. She was afraid of losing him. She was afraid of being alone again. James took a deep breath. He looked at the twins, who were standing quietly behind the door. He could see their faces, full of hope. He felt a strong emotion inside him. He realized that he cared for them deeply. He realized that he wanted to stay with them. He looked back at Leona. I want to be with you, he said, but I want to be sure it is real. I want to be sure we are doing this for the right reasons. Leona nodded. I understand, she said. We do not need to rush. We can take time. James smiled. I want to take time, he said, but I also want to be honest. I care about you. I care about your daughters. I want to build a life with you. Leona's eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry. She smiled softly. That is enough, she said. The twins came inside and sat with them. They listened quietly. They looked at James with a new kind of respect. They were happy, but they also understood that love was not a simple thing. It was something that grew slowly. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. James stayed. He became a part of the family. He helped with the work. He helped with the animals. He helped with the house. He also began to teach the twins things he had learned from his travels. He taught them how to read and write. He taught them how to think about the world beyond their home. He did not try to change them. He just wanted to give them more opportunities. Leona and James grew closer. They did not rush their relationship. They did not have grand romantic moments. Their love was quiet and steady. It was built on trust and respect. They talked, they shared their thoughts, and they supported each other. They learned to be a team. One day, the twins asked James a question. Will you stay with us forever? Ayana asked. James looked at them. He smiled.
Yes, he said. I will stay with you as long as you want me. Mita smiled.
We are happy, she said. James felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that he had found something he never knew he was missing. He had found a home. He had found a family. He had found people who cared about him. Years later, the twins grew older. They became strong young women. They continued to live with James and Leona. They worked hard, but they also laughed and enjoyed life. The house became full of life and joy. James often thought about the day he first met the twins in the town. He remembered how he had been tired and lonely. He remembered how they had invited him without knowing him. He remembered how he had felt watched and tested. He remembered how he had thought it was a simple act of kindness, but now he knew it was much more than that. It was a moment that changed his life. It was a moment that gave him a second chance. It was a moment that brought him a family. He looked at Leona one evening as they sat outside watching the stars. He smiled and said, "Thank you." Leona looked at him and smiled back. "Thank you," she said. The twins were inside, laughing and talking. The house was quiet and warm. The future was still uncertain. as it always is. But James knew one thing for sure. He was not alone anymore. He had a home. He had a family. And that was enough. Apache twin girls invited him home. He didn't know they planned to marry him to their widowed mom.